Okay, so I don't think anyone should be surprised that Taco Tuesday decided not to renew the CUSMA trade agreement. And to be honest, I would be more surprised if he did. I mean, if they did sign the agreement, we already know the pattern. The United States signs the deal. The United States celebrates the big deal. They say it's the best deal ever. And then, like, a couple months later, they'll say, they want more. It wouldn't be a win-win situation for Canada and the US. It would only be a win for the US. Now, I might not be the most knowledgeable when it comes to trade and geopolitics. I'm not a trade expert. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I understand every little detail inside the trade agreement. But for me, it's not really about the CUSMA agreement. This is about trust. It's about the relationship that we have with the United States. And I think by now, many Canadians know that the relationship that we have with our next door neighbor is pretty much dead. And I think our Prime Minister says it best.
The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over.
Now, I fully understand that, and I'm way past the nostalgia part as well. Some parts took me a little while to get over the grief, but it didn't last very long. But today's announcement by Taco Tuesday and his administration is another wrinkle in that paper that I've been talking about. We're not going to forget this. You can't crumple up a paper and flatten it out. The creases are still going to be there. But CUSMA's not ending today. I mean, we're not going to wake up tomorrow with no trade agreement. That's not what I'm saying. But the United States has declined to renew the deal in its current form. And what it does create is uncertainty. And uncertainty what kills trust. Because if every signed agreement with the United States can be turned to leverage for their side, then what's the value of calling them a reliable partner? So in today's video, I want to show some comments from Tom Mulcair. I really like his commentary. I mean, he says what we want to hear. Not the politically correct word salad that we're used to hearing from others. So let's go ahead and get started.
To break down these developments, let's bring in CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair. Mr. Mulcair, welcome and happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day to you too, Karen.
So let's start with your reaction to this. It wasn't really a surprise, was it, that the U.S. was not going to signal renewal?
No, and what's interesting also is the very fact that Mark Carney was obliged to weave that into his Canada Day speech. Of course.
Now, just think about that for a minute. Yesterday was Canada Day, and it should have been about us, our country, our celebration, for Canadians all over the world. And it should also be a time where our allies are, saying happy birthday and stuff to us. Instead, our Prime Minister Mark Carney has to announce to the country that our dysfunctional neighbor is just dysfunctioning. It's a stark difference from 2017 when this article was published, and Taco Tuesday actually wished Canada a happy birthday. Now, I know some people are going to say, who cares if Taco Tuesday doesn't congratulate us? I don't care as well. What I'm trying to point out is how drastic this relationship or friendship with the United States has changed, to the point that even on our nation's birthday, there has to be warnings about our next door neighbor. Now, I am glad that Prime Minister Mark Carney is speaking up on our birthday, but I'm trying to show the stark differences between the old Canada and the new Canada.
Of course, as we saw today, and there's a reason for it. Canadians are downright worried about what's happening with the United States ever since Donald Trump came back. Carney, full of energy, smiling, able to calm things, I think, fairly, mentioning the fact that the worst part that could have happened, which would have been the announcement that the U.S. was withdrawing with 6 months' notice, has not occurred. What we are heading into is a lot of instability because businesses looking to make a decision, Kieran, are not going to be thrilled about a trade pact that has to be renewed every year. So built into the decision of the United States is a lot of instability and insecurity, and that's not great for the economy on both sides. But it also signals that Trump has finally been prevailed upon to understand that the trade deal in and of itself is a good thing for all three parties. It increases overall trade. It increases wealth in all three countries. He's just got to understand that in a relationship, one side doesn't get to get everything that it wants.
And this is the problem right here. Any negotiation with the U.S. administration, and it doesn't matter which country, Taco Tuesday wants them to win, and Taco Tuesday wants the other side to lose. I actually want people to look at this from a relationship point of view, because Canada has spent decades building around the idea that the United States would be stable, a trusted partner. I mean, we built supply chains around them, built tourist habits around them. We built business and relationships around them. And most importantly, we trusted them. But many Canadians around the world are most likely asking the question, can we trust the United States anymore? I don't. And it blows my mind that I actually trust China when it comes to trade more than the United States. I mean, I guess China is the lesser of two evils. I mean, they're not threatening to annex my country.
It is a trade relationship between three neighbors, three very important trading partners. And at the same time, the United States has always wanted, since Trump came back, to have everything its own way. maybe cooler heads are starting to prevail. I saw some interesting references made by something called the Cato Institute, a right-wing think tank, very respected in the U.S., saying, hold on, the last thing we want to do is to torch this deal. Yes, it can be refined, better things can happen, but overall, it's a good thing for the United States as well. It's good to hear strong voices making that case in the U.S.
Now, I am glad that organizations are speaking up, but there's got to be more. And to be honest, I think the only way to sway the Taco Tuesday guy is if it starts hurting the billionaires.
So I want to ask you, Mr. Mulcair, how significant is this today that they decided not to renew CUSMA politically for Prime Minister Carney? And what does it say about Canada's leverage right now in negotiations with Washington when it comes to trade?
I think it's a bit of a push. I think that Canada is getting the signal from the United States that they're not ready to go to the ultimate limit, which would have been to give the 6-month announcement that they're withdrawing from the agreement whole as bolus. Doesn't mean that Trump won't use that as his ultimate bargaining chip at some point in the process. But
Oh, you can sure as hell bet he's going to use it as a bargaining chip. I mean, Taco Tuesday is as predictable as a stomachache after spicy foods. And the fact that we're on like a year-to-year renewal, I'm 100% sure between now and like next year, Taco Tuesday is going to threaten to pull out, which is what his dad should have did. Yeah, I went there. But the problem is that people don't want to deal with uncertainty. That's what kills trust. Businesses can deal with rules, countries can deal with rules. People, we can deal with the rules. But what we can't deal with is the rules constantly changing. And unfortunately, that's where we're at with the United States. One day we might be their friend. The next day we're ripping them off. And then maybe on a Tuesday they don't need anything from us. And then on a Wednesday they say that Canada should work with them. What I just said right now is the reason why the world does not trust the United States. They're acting like a bipolar frat guy right now. And everyone else in the room is asking, how do we get this guy out of here? Or how do we send him home? But as for what Tom said, I can guarantee that Taco Tuesday over the next year is going to threaten to pull out of CUSMA again and again and again.
once we get past the fall elections, what they call the midterms in the United States, I think that it's going to be quite difficult for Donald Trump. Once we get past that, Kieran, we're into the last year of his mandate. So his ability to completely upset the apple cart is going to be diminished. And the type of behavior that we've seen from him in the past, of course, will be less credible. And let's hope that we do get past those midterms, that Trump, if Trump is indeed weakened, as many expect him to be, I think that will be good news for Canada and for the prospects of a trade deal.
Now, when it comes to the midterms, I think the whole world is saying, please, please, please don't fuck this up. You have one job, United States, just please don't fuck it up. But eventually Taco Tuesday will be gone and 6 feet under. But my question is, there's enough wackos in the United States to have like a Taco Tuesday 3.0. Personally, I'm not convinced that everything's going to be fine after Taco's gone. And that's even with a Democratic president. Because with the United States two-party system, it's just going to flip back and forth. It might be fine for the next 4 years or 8 years, but then after that, we might have another 8 years of Republicans. But whichever party is sitting in the Oval Office at any given time, I'm still a firm believer that Canada has to be the new Canada, not the old Canada. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me on this or not.
So, Mr. Mulcair, I want to get your insights about Canadian businesses, investors in Canada right now. How should people be reacting? As you said, it wasn't worst case scenario, I guess, in that the country did not completely pull out or give that 6-month notice that it was going to pull out U.S. But it must be, this uncertainty must be very unsettling for many Canadians and many businesses.
Very difficult, because businesses don't make a decision on an annual basis. If you're looking at investing in Canada, if you're trying, to bring a big investment here, it has to be planned over many years. And if it's an uncertain atmosphere like the one that Donald Trump has just created by moving us into this rolling 10-year annual review, it's very difficult.
Now, some projects and companies and plans and migrations and stuff, yeah, they do take years. No company is going to want to expand into Canada, Mexico, or the United States if they don't know what's going to happen next year. And I think the biggest mistake that the United States is making is thinking that Canada and Mexico, they have nowhere else to go. They think everybody needs to access the United States. Basically strong-arming us into thinking that whatever offer the United States is going to offer, that we're going to take it. I mean, if I related to, like, say, working with a partnership with another company, they could offer me shares in their company, a car, benefits, a bonus, what you name it. If they're a douchebag, I'm not going to work for them. Because number one, is my credibility on the line. And number two, I would not be able to trust them. But with CUSMA being on a year-by-year basis right now, you have to think how many thousands, if not millions of companies in all three countries are going to be affected now. They're not going to be able to plan it for the future. And expansions into other countries? Yeah, not a chance.
Now, the Americans will look at this as saying, oh, that's good, because American companies won't be able to, set up shop in Canada or in Mexico. But it's the same thing both ways. The Americans have set things up with their tariffs that it has become increasingly interesting for investments to come to that country. But people will be making the same evaluation. They don't know where things stand, or even more importantly, where they'll stand in 2-3 years down the road. That uncertainty plays against the United States as much as it plays against Canada and Mexico. That's why cooler heads will eventually prevail, and there will be a trade deal. But as usual, Trump has to be able to crow that he won, just the way he won the war in Iran. You might have noticed that the Strait of Hormuz is still being controlled by Iran. But
Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of a prediction right now. Just me just having a little bit of fun. My guess is that Taco Tuesday is going to threaten to, pull out of CUSMA maybe 2 or 3 times. And then he's going to sign a deal, a big, beautiful deal. And that deal, it'll probably be exactly the same as what we have right now with a few modifications. I mean, everybody knows the pattern. I mean, my prediction probably isn't that far off. Tom Mulcair talks about this a little bit more. But sometimes you just got to sit back and think about how insane this situation is. I mean, we're dealing with a toddler. And to be honest, I think it might actually be easier to deal with Kim Jong-un as well as Vladimir Putin. Neither are good people. But at least they're kind of predictable.
the Americans said that they crushed Iran and they won. Trump will say the same thing, no matter what the new deal looks like. Look, he said that this CUSMA deal was so much better than NAFTA. Anybody who's read NAFTA and read the CUSMA deal realizes it. They're almost the same. But, Donald Trump got to say he got rid of the worst trade deal ever, brought this one in, and when he replaces this one that he brought in, he'll say that he finally got rid of the CUSMA and he's got a much better deal because he negotiated, because he's the master of the art of the deal.
Yeah, Mr. Mulcair, thanks for pointing that out, that CUSMA was negotiated during Trump's first term. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Great to be with you.
So CUSMA is probably going to survive. Whether it gets renewed or not, I don't know. I mean, maybe we just put it into like a gold binder and tell them it's like a new deal. But for me, the CUSMA agreement is not really the real story of this video. The real story is that Canada has learned a big lesson, and I think the world has as well. The United States is no longer a stable ally, at all. And with Taco Tuesday holding over our heads that he can pull out of CUSMA anytime, what company or what business is going to want to invest in the United States? Now again, I'm not saying cut off every relationship with the United States. It's simply not possible. What I am saying is that Canada needs to stop being dependent on one country that uses the dependency as leverage against us. I mean, to me, that's not a friendship or a partnership. I mean, that's just a bully and borderline extortion. For a long time, Canada's closeness to the United States, we treated it as a strength. And at one point, it might have been. But right now, it feels like our biggest weakness and our biggest vulnerability. Because when your closest quote-unquote friend keeps threatening you, insulting you, demanding more, keeps acting surprised when you pull away and starts gaslighting you, it might be time for Canada to build that wall. But as Canadians and even international allies in your respective countries, we have to remember that we're not powerless. We have the resources, allies, industries, food, energy, and the critical minerals and water that the United States wants. And the biggest thing that we have that they don't is our reputation. So to Taco Tuesday and his administration, go ahead and keep acting like 2-year-olds. Because all you're doing is ruining your reputation, not just after you guys are gone, but for the long run. To close off this video, I would like to thank Tempest Nova from our Discord server for posting up this photo from Batchewana Bay in Ontario. It might sound a little bit weird, but I actually do miss those foggy mornings by the water. So I want to thank you, Tempest Nova, for sharing this photo with the community. Alright everyone, that's it for this video. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international point of view without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified of my future videos. And don't forget to hit the bell icon and select all as well. Now, if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that are going to show up on your screen shortly. Thanks everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.